I think that the biggest single issue that I see affecting just all of society today, I think it's central to practically every problem that we're seeing in the world around us today. It relates to the relationship between the masculine and the feminine. And of course, you can add to that, it's also relating to our relationship with our sexuality. So recently we've all been seeing these memes about the woman and the man and the bear in the woods and so on. And I don't live in the USA. There's no bears where I live in any case. But nonetheless, I find it just devastating and heartbreaking to see so many women are talking about feeling, these feelings that they would actually rather, encounter what presumably is a dangerous animal than a human male, who obviously should be someone that should be bringing us excitement, joy, juiciness, pleasure, and so on. Now, I think that part of this is a distortion because, for example, people talk about statistics about assault, and this is not to take away in any way from assaults that are happening on on women. Absolutely, there's a lot of women being attacked by males. There's also males being attacked by females as well. But when we start, looking, for example, what is the actual chance of a woman walking in the woods and being attacked, raped? It's a low chance. It's a very low chance. Now, of course, there is a lot of violence going on within relationships. In fact, the majority of violence going on against women is going on within relationships. And when we ask, why is that happening? Well, today there's a lot of fingers pointing at the male, and I absolutely think, men do need to do a lot of work. If men are hearing this meme about the bear and they're getting triggered, they're feeling upset at women, I would say that's an indication that there's somewhere there you need to have a look at and you need to do some work around. I'd even add to that, if men are feeling triggered about women being feminists, again, it's something I would just say, why are you feeling triggered by that, But I'm going to say the same thing about us women. And, people can hear me talking about this and can say, oh, well, someone criticized me yesterday for saying this, that I think that we as women, we also need to look a lot about personal healing that we need to be doing on ourselves as well to be remedying this situation. Now, statistics show that the majority of violence against women, or indeed perhaps violence by women against men, takes place within a relationship. And the first thing we want to ask is, there are so many wonderful, amazing, nice guys around. Why are we attracting in guys that are treating us in these ways that are not right? And people can say, oh, it's the fault of, the woman making bad choices. I wouldn't even say that, It's like when our nervous system is set in a kind of a frequency of trauma, we then start attracting these situations towards ourselves, where we are then finding that we are being re-traumatized, essentially. Now, I personally grew up around a lot of violence, male violence in various forms. I was quite traumatized by the time I was a teenager. And the first thing I did was I got into a relationship with a violent, abusive man, probably quite a psycho that I didn't even see at the time. Or maybe I didn't know that, something was different, or something different was kind of possible, I suppose I could say, Fortunately, that was, you know, it was a terrible, bad experience. It was very traumatic, but fortunately, it was also an experience that I learned from. But I will absolutely put my hands up to the fact that I was then one of these women that was seeing, you know, all men are rapists, all men are violators of women, men are these predators, men are hurting us. I mean, I'm quite glad I went through that stage when I did at this time in my life when I was younger, essentially. But, you know, ultimately, also at these times, well, what was going on with me, I had real big issues having intimacy, having connection with a partner. I also had very big intimacy issues in relation to my ability to be able to feel pleasure, my ability to be able to, you know, even like have orgasms or have intimacy and connection that was really like meaningful and lasting with another person. And when I look back on it, this is all like similar, same blocks that were actually like showing up in my life and stopping me from being able to like connect with a partner. The irony of it was that all this time I had loads of male friends. I was hanging out with loads of men. They were really, really great and fantastic to me, the majority of them and the majority of the time. But I was still going through this, you know, all men are abusers and so on. And I'd say to some extent, you know, that even these men sort of like held space for me, you know, in that process as well. It was only when I started to actually like really discover like how to start healing myself that I managed to get free of this dynamic and really start having like healthy, nourishing relationships, essentially. So, you know, I've seen online, there's a lot of men, they're very upset about women, they're lashing out at women. There's a lot of men being hurt by women. You know, as women, we got to be careful as well when we go too much into the role of playing the victim, because there's women out there, you know, and especially I think right now in the world, there's a massive increase of narcissism amongst females. I think there's a story that's just been in the press about some females who pushed a male into the water and watched him drowning for 20 minutes. I don't know if anyone here has ever seen a person drowning. I have twice, and just the instinct is to jump in the water and pull them out, and I did. And one time when this happened twice, and one time when it happened, the person was actually about 20 kilos heavier than me. It was not an easy thing to you know, to pull this person out. I was even risking my life. But the fact is that there's, I think, this natural human instinct that you can't just watch a person drowning for this long period of time and do nothing about it unless something is just seriously wrong within you. And, you know, there's a lot of pressure on women, okay? You know, there's a lot of trauma, and I think that teenage girls are now getting traumatized by their first partners who are often trying to like play out porn scenes with them, and this can be very traumatic for girls. I think this is a major factor why we see so many young girls now that are just completely obsessed with how they look, the fingernails, the injections in their faces and lips and so on, not very connected in with their sexuality, just looking for a guy to pay for their fingernails and pay for their hair or whatever. And I think it's so sad, because I went through my 20s with just no even thought about how do I look okay. I was just enjoying life, you know. It's tough that people are, you know, feeling, and there's so much pressure on us about how we look. In a way, it's not surprising, but at the same time, there's also, you know, I think this has become one of those chicken and egg scenarios. You know, I don't even want to put a blame on one person at the beginning, but what I do want to say is that this whole situation between men and women has just become like so incredibly toxic from both sides, not just from the side of men, you know. And there are really like so many amazing, wonderful men around that are wanting to literally be doing good to us women, wanting to be protecting us. And I think that partly why these men have been upset about this bear thing is they're like, hang on, I just want to protect a woman, and you're just calling me like a kind of, you know, rapist, basically. And it's understandable on a certain level why they would feel like that. I think also that if there was more empathy towards a woman, and also understanding, you know, why does the woman feel like this? Why does she been through these traumatic experiences that cause her to look at life in this way? And I think it's really important that we all just stand back, you know, and understand as men, women tend to live in this state of fear. You know, you go on a date as a woman for the first time, you know, you're thinking, okay, how am I going to like defend myself? You know, how can I take my high heel off and hit him in the eye or something like this if he attacks me? You know, men just don't go on dates thinking that. Obviously, men have other things they're concerned about. Even, is she going to accuse me of raping her or something like that? But I think that as women, it's very easy to like overlook the experience that men are going through, which can be like incredibly difficult. Now, when I teach my courses, one of my modules, we talk specifically around consent, and we talk about how to read a woman's body. I also actually teach women how to read a man's body, make sure they know if he's in consent, he's not maybe like gone into like a fawn state or freeze or something like that. But I also teach men, and I remember the last time I was in this class and I was teaching that, you know, and it was like I hardly had a chance to even open my mouth before all the men in the class were talking about how important it is to respect women, you know, how we need to really make sure that women are, you know, consenting, that they're not just kind of like gone into a state of fawn and freeze and so on and so forth. And I was like, this is just so beautiful, you know, to hear this from men. Obviously, those are my clients. Those are people that have very consciously been educating themselves around sexuality. But even if we go and look at, for example, I was hanging out with some friends who are basically builders, and one of them was talking about sex, and he was talking about finishing, using the word finishing, and the other guy butted in and was like, no, you can't use that word finishing, you know, it's not just your orgasm, it's her orgasm, you got to make sure she's happy. If you stop in, you know, if she wants to stop in the middle, you got to stop, you got to respect that. And I was like, things are moving forward in life, and this is really beautiful that men are actually coming to understand, you know, that the experiences that women go through, and this is in no way taking away from either the experience women go through, which can be incredibly difficult, or the experience men go through, which also can be incredibly very difficult as well. And as I said, I had a lot of antagonistic feelings towards men in the past. And it was really when I came into my own self and started healing my body, healing my energy field, that this started to change. And even though I'll say I did always meet, you know, amazing men all my life, I've met amazing men. It took me doing a certain amount of healing, and I'm not even saying we need to completely heal ourselves either. This is a fantastic thing, actually. Even like some amount of healing, like anybody who sits there waiting to be completely healed, I don't think we're ever going to get to that place of being completely healed. But we can get to a place where we are actually in enough of a state with enough awareness to be able to understand, you know, everybody's going through their different stuff. Everyone's going through their different experience. And if we don't personally, as individuals, take this step away from, you know, what I'm going to say is this social narcissism that's being pushed on us by social media, it's being pushed on us by pornography, it's being pushed on us by the media, by the society and everything, where people are becoming so self-obsessed, so selfish. And this includes people who go around saying, oh, I'm an empath, everyone else is a narcissist. That is a form of narcissism as well, in and of itself, you know. And truth is, everyone has narcissistic qualities. Everyone contains these qualities. Truth is, yes, there's a big wound in women that relates to the masculine and the divine masculine. And men, very many men, have a big wound around women as well. We can say, you know, that, you know, we can sit and talk about who's right and who's wrong and who did more and who did less and so on and so forth. But the fact is that when, you know, if my house is on fire, if I break down on the road, you know, if I get rescued out of the water, chances are it's going to be a man who rescues me, you know. And the thing is, yes, there are men that don't help women. There are men that try to hurt women. But the problem with this is actually these men, they're not in their masculine. The problem is not them being too masculine, it's them not being enough in their masculine, because one of the most basic traits of a masculine man, which is even more powerful than his desire for sex, is actually a balanced masculine man will want to be helping women. And when I came to understand this was like a huge thing for me, when I came to realize that men are just looking and wanting to help women as such a basic instinct that's like programmed into their DNA. And I started even like testing it with my partner, and I was saying to him, like, you know, what do you like doing with me the most, you know? And it was actually coming down to, you know, he loved feeding my pets, he loved sweeping the floor for me, just things like this that actually, like, you know, some people would say, oh, he's a simp to sweep your floor or whatever, but in reality, this is the most basic masculine drive to actually want to help us women, you know? So I know from myself, my own experience, and I know from the work I do, that there's so much pain going on within men and within women. And, you know, there's so much trauma. There are so many nervous systems that are just a complete mess that's then attracting into us situations which are not helpful, which are not healthy, and situations where we keep getting re-traumatized, essentially, you know. But the thing is, this is something that we can do. We can do something about it. We can take action about it. We don't have to live in these states where we are feeling that, you know, the man is the enemy, the woman is the enemy. And there's just far too many people feeling like this. And when we think about it, you know, this is the worst situation that can happen. This is like the downfall, literally, of society, when men and women are hating each other. And what we need, you know, and fear is, you know, it is also, like, in a weird way, it's the opposite of love, but even in a sense, it is a form of hatred. It's a form of ignorance, because so much of this fear is based upon just misinformation and ignorance. You know, when I started to work giving tantra massage to men in London, it just blew me over, like all these like really amazing, really lovely guys that were just, you know, they were sharing me all these problems they had, all these emotions they were going through. So many of them were saying, I've never told this to anyone before, and then telling me. And I really got to feel, and I really got to understand, you know, what is men's experience? What do men actually experience? And I always had this view, and I think so many women do, that men are kind of brick walls. You know, in reality, men are like extremely sensitive beings, and they go through like a lot of pain and a lot of suffering. I mean, they basically get taught from a very young age that they've got to be they've got to just hide their emotions. They've got to bottle everything up. They've got to act this part, play the part of someone that they thought that society wanted them to be. And what this just does is, you know, they end up with so many blocked up, mixed up emotions, which then start flying out actually as rage and as anger and as violence, because also there isn't the place for them to be able to express those feelings. And so many men that feel like they go into that space where they want to express their emotions vulnerably, they just find that actually, you know, they get attacked, they get rejected, they get put down, they get destroyed. I think it's time that we all take responsibility. I think it's very important, men taking responsibility, you know, men learning, understanding, why are women feminists? Why are women choosing the bear? Why are women afraid of men? What is this experience that women are going through? You know, even if you're a guy and you say, oh, I think I'm great in bed, I've never had any, understand, women probably won't complain. Women probably won't say anything, because women are programmed and conditioned not to say anything. And if you're not getting feedback, you're not getting, you know, including negative and positive feedback, it may well mean that she doesn't feel safe to express herself with you. It's a really important food for thought there. You know, at the same time, we as women, we need to understand things about men as well. You know, men the main drive of men is not sex. It really isn't. You know, doing things, serving women is probably one of the main drives of a healthy masculine man, as crazy as it sounds, you know. And ultimately, we can talk about this all day, we can talk about who's right, who's wrong, and so on, but unless we actually go and we do the inner work within ourselves, we learn to discover within ourselves, you know, where is our energy block that's causing us to stay in trauma, that's stopping us from being able to connect in the natural, juicy way with ourselves and with the other beings as well around us. We're going to end up just going into a deeper and deeper downward cycle, which now, today, women are more and more contributing into this cycle. We really need to take responsibility for this. I mean, one female that I knew for a very, very long time and hadn't seen for a long time as well, last year, she actually murdered her boyfriend. She brutally murdered over a period of time, violently, with her bare hands, this guy she'd been dating, I think, for about a year or so, but known for a very, very long time. You know, as I mentioned, there's the man who was pushed into the water by the women just last month, I think it was. You know, and even, for example, when we see characters like Taylor Swift, who seem to be singing about sort of murdering their ex-boyfriends, can you imagine if a man was singing about murdering his ex-girlfriend? People would be crazy about it, you know. But it seems, oh, a woman is doing it, oh, it's okay, you know. And this isn't to take away from the fact that we go through traumas. This isn't to take away from the fact that we need to spend some time in victim state and victim mode. And it's really important that we go through this experience of feeling victimhood. But it's like when we're in victimhood, it's like we're down in this pit, we're down in this hole. And essentially, you know, if we're going to stay in that hole, we're going to stay in that hole, we're going to stay in that pit, right? Is that where we want to be? Is that where you want to be? You know, for me, you know, my work, it's very much about empowering victims. And sometimes empowering victims, it means telling people things they don't want to hear, or at least at first they might not want to hear. And then later they're going to understand and they're going to see the sense in it. And I know this isn't a popular thing to do, but I think more than ever now, we all need to take responsibility. Men need to take responsibility. Women need to take responsibility. And yes, all this stuff around sexuality is really delicate area. But when you start understanding there's a science to it, that energy works in certain ways, and in fact that you can also learn to be able to work with your energy so that actually you are then putting off an energy that's going to be treated with respect. It's going to get the adoration you desire. You know, it's a very, very different situation. And, you know, when I think about my past self, where I just didn't know any better than to get involved and stay in a toxic, violent relationship, and looking at where I am now, you know, where I'm experiencing like really adoration, sexual and non-sexual adoration, you know, both of them. And I can only say, you know, and I'm not even going to say it's because I'm enlightened, I'm completely healed, I'm a perfect being. I don't think, you know, anyone in a sense is going to be at that state ever. We're always works in progress. But I do think I got to a certain point where I was really able to draw in and attract this incredible divine masculine serving, you know, energy to me. And this is what we as women, we all want. We all want to be adored. We want to be served. I think I talked about this yesterday on my Facebook, and I had a beautiful comment from a man there, you know, and I think it's so true that most men, they just want to serve us, but they're kind of scared. And we're all a little bit too blocked to really be able to see what's going on. So the takeaway from this is I think we need to be doing more understanding of ourselves and more understanding of each other. And I definitely would recommend on Thursday, in 2 days' time from now, on Thursday, I'm hosting a VIP immersion, my dog, I'm hosting a VIP immersion where I'll be talking about this kind of blockages that gets in the way of our ability to experience our body, our intimacy, our life, and everything. So I definitely recommend get on that. Find in my story the sign up, or I'll try to put the sign up into this after. Okay, and essentially, if you want to know more about sexual energy blockages, just do drop me reflexology into the comments, and I'm going to send you my genital reflexology worksheet so you can start to see how these blockages actually live in the body and also live in our sexual organs, which is a major place that we get blocked. And when we're blocked within our sexual organs, it blocks us like within our whole life. So clearing these blockages is like the first step to any kind of sexual work that we're doing on ourselves, any kind of sexual self-development work. Don't go straight into trying to activate your kundalini, get multiple orgasms or sexual work without first addressing this inner work, because it's so important, it's so worthwhile, and I'm going to say as well, it is so fun. So hopefully see you on Thursday, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.